G'day legends, welcome back. Today we're going to tell you why people from all around the world are flocking to Medellin, not only to visit, but to live long term. In fact, did you guys know that in 2022, Medellin was actually voted by timeout.com as the third best city in the world to visit? Did you know that?
I did see that article, and that was amazing. And it's been that way for a few years now. Since we've been here for a while and seen tourism and the expat community grow here, it's very exciting to talk about it.
In this video, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest reasons why foreigners are coming to live in Medellin. And we're going to do it in a bit of an interesting format today, a bit of a different format. We're going to count down from number 5 to number 1 being the biggest reason. All of you at home who think you're a bit of a Medellin or Colombia expert, please pause the video right here and leave a comment or write down a note to yourself and see if you can guess the top 5.
All right, let's do this.
Let's dive straight into number 5 in reasons why people are moving to Medellin. And that is, Andrew?
Dating. And dating can definitely be number 1 for a lot of people. But for our list, it's not number 1 because it does not apply to everyone. I've been here for 13 years and I've seen now more than ever people come in here that are couples, that are families with children. So dating is not number 1 anymore. For the purposes of our list, dating is number 5.
It's no secret that Colombia has some of the most beautiful women in the world. Basically, you walk in the street, you see 10 women, at least 8 of them are going to be very attractive. That is one huge point. There's access to so many more good-looking women here compared to other countries around the world.
Because of the culture that Colombians have about keeping themselves up, looking beautiful just to go across the street to buy a tomato at the local store. You're not going to ever see someone going to the grocery store in their pajamas and Crocs.
There's actually a very interesting cultural reason for that point that you mentioned, why the women are always dressed to the nines here. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But guys, I've been to about 40 countries across the world, and I can confirm that Colombia definitely is in the top 2, if not number 1, in having the most beautiful women in the world. So with that said, let's explain a little bit why it's like that. The reason why the women are so good looking here is because of expectations, social expectations. Appearances are everything here. Everybody cares about how they look. If you go to a gym, 6 o'clock in the morning, it's full. You go to the same gym, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 9 p.m., it's bloody full all the time.
And everyone's dressed very nicely. There's no one working out in terrible clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
When you go to the grocery store, everyone's dressed at least presentable.
A lot of the time you'll see women looking their best in the US or Australia when they're going for a night out at a club or something like that.
Exactly.
They're going to take a lot of photos that night. They want to post that shit on Instagram. So they're doing their makeup, doing their hair, wearing their best clothes, wearing the high heels, looking like a supermodel for that night, right?
Yeah.
But that is what Colombian women look like all the time. They go to the shop, they go to the cafe. That's how they look 100% of the time.
That's why dating is such an allure here, because you have access to a lot of beautiful women. And second of all, the culture is expecting people to look nice all of the time.
So that's the first part. There's more volume of better looking people here, okay? And the second one is kind of something we talked about in one of our recent videos, is this kind of passport bros movement. And what is that? Let me tell you, in Australia or the US or the UK, to find a woman who's extremely good looking and for her to be attracted to you and for you to date her, for you to have any chance with her, you need to tick a lot of boxes. You would need to be good looking. You need to have money. You need to have a good job. You need to maybe have some muscles and be fit, need to be funny, have a personality. There's many things you got to satisfy, right? In affluent countries, the women have more choice. Women have their jobs, they have their money, they have power. They don't rely on men. So they can choose. Good on you, women. Be more selective. Don't go with a bum on the street. Good on you. But in Colombia, unfortunately, it's a very poor country. So a lot of the women do not have that luxury. For any of you guys who understand this from business class or school or high school or whatever, there's something that's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's basically a pyramid, and on the bottom, it has food, shelter, security, things that you need just to survive. And as you move further up the pyramid, I think there's 4 or 5 levels. At the top is feeling like good about yourself, satisfying my ego and stuff. The basic premise of this is if you don't satisfy the bottom level, you cannot move up. And that's kind of what dating is like in Colombia, except there's only a couple of levels. The bottom level is that people are poor, so they'll date anyone for money. Not everyone, but many of the girls They'll just be happy to have a guy who provides food and shelter for them. Can you tell us a bit more of that, but what you've seen in the 13 years? Because I think that's a very, very important point to why many people come here and they date, especially people who were not successful at all and got 0 women back in their home countries.
These guys come out here and they meet these women and they, like you said, they might be from a lower income and these guys are getting a lot of attention. But with that, there are some cons because you don't know the culture out here. You don't know that these lower income women are seeking just money, right? And you think that they're in love with you. And then they start asking you for shit. I need a new cell phone. My son needs books for school, etc. And you might help. But then eventually you'll start figuring out that she might have another guy. She might even have a local guy from the barrio that she grew up with that who she's really in love with. These are all situations that I've seen in the 13 years here. That being said, dating is a very important reason why people come here, but you should also know why you're coming out here to date and learn the culture, the dating culture, and just day-to-day culture for the locals.
Dating is number 5 on the list, and mainly because there's a plethora of good-looking women out here, and the access to these women is much easier than in many of our own countries, for the obvious reasons we mentioned before. Now let's move to number 4, reasons why foreigners are flocking to Medellin. What is number 4, Andrew?
The weather. Everybody loves the weather in Medellin, man. I've never heard of anybody coming here and saying, man, I can't stand this springtime weather 24/7. Now, if you like winter and freezing cold weather, this is not for you. If you like super hot weather, this is not for you either. This is right in the middle. They call it the city of eternal springtime. In Spanish, it's always springtime here. So you will get showers, spring showers, which are very common. But you're not going to get extreme cold and you're not going to get extreme heat. There's no seasons. It's always about 70 to 80 degrees year round.
So especially if you live in cities like New York, London, or even Canada, the winters are long and the winters are hard. This can leave many people feeling disheartened, demotivated, or even depressed in extreme circumstances. As Andrew said though, most of Colombia never really experiences this cold, except Bogota, which can get cold, but even when we say cold, that's nothing compared to -40 or -30 that Canada's getting. In Medellin, where we live, the coldest that you'll get at nighttime could be maybe 15 degrees Celsius. In Fahrenheit, that maybe like 60. You can still be out in jeans and a t-shirt. It's nothing. The weather in Medellin is extremely consistent year round. And Andrew mentioned rain. Yes, it rains, but this is not Seattle, okay?
No, yeah.
You're not losing days and days on end sitting inside waiting for the rain to finish. What will usually happen, it will be pounding sunshine outside, and then within 5 seconds, boom,
There's a
rainstorm,
yeah.
and you can't see anything outside. And then again, within 10 minutes,
It's gone.
blasting sunshine.
Yeah.
So you basically never lose more than an hour, maximum 2 hours of the day because of rain.
Furthermore, every day you'll see people walking out in the street. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people are happy too, because it's a fact that if you do get exercise and you get sun, hopefully daily, you are a happier person. Every day I get out of the house and I walk somewhere, whether it's my local bar, whether it's my local cafe. I'm always out and about doing stuff because the weather allows for it. It's never too hot and it's never too cold. It's never too rainy.
So that's actually a big reason why we hear over and over and over foreigners moving to Medellin and completely changing their life around, whether that be losing 100 pounds and getting fit for the first time in their life, or starting a new business, or finding a new relationship. Just the motivation they get from constant sunlight, and also, as you mentioned, seeing other people active. You go outside, someone's running, someone's riding their bike, and all that pushes you up. That is number 4 on the list of reasons why people are flocking to Medellin. Number 3 on the list, guys, is local culture. Andrew, do you want to tell us a bit more about that? You have 2 feet, 1 foot in each camp here, being a Colombian American.
Yeah, I
like
was
that.
born in Colombia, but I was raised in the United States, lived there for 26 years until I was 29 years old. I've been here ever since, so I've been here for 13 years. That being said, one of the biggest reasons why people come to Colombia is the Colombian culture, and I see why. Because in the United States, we have a culture of individualism. In Colombia, it's the complete opposite. In Colombia, we have a culture of socializing. If you live in a building with an elevator, it's very common where you go in the elevator and everybody says, good morning, good day. You wait and you get out, and then everybody says goodbye. You will even see it not only in elevators in your own apartment building, but if you go to a mall and you get in an elevator, it's very common that everyone says buenas tardes, buenos dias if it's in the morning. And when you get out, everyone says hasta luego, buen dia, whatever the case may be. But it's very different than the United States. And in the United States, you might live in your building for years and not even know your next door neighbor or the person that lives across the hall. But here, that's very common.
It's almost automatic. People don't even think about it. They just come in, oh, buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? You know, the culture of greeting someone, acknowledging another human being is in your presence. Whereas in Australia, in the US, it could be like, do everything to avoid making eye contact and speaking to this person who's right next to me.
You become almost like instant best friends with people just from little interactions, which is very refreshing and very awesome to live.
Let's touch back on weather, and sunlight makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
What else makes people happy? And on the other end of the spectrum, makes people very depressed. Lack of social connection. Many stories I hear about people feeling depressed in their countries is because they don't have friends. They don't have someone to talk to. They don't have the connections. So if you're like that, come to Colombia, because it's so easy to talk to people, right? From your Uber driver to someone in the street, to someone at the cafe, they're very happy to talk to you. If you're lacking that social connection, then this is really the place where it's much easier to find it. Definitely more than my country, where in Australia, everyone's focused on their own thing and they just want to go about their day. Yeah. And I'm sure it's quite the same in many countries. So that's a huge, huge reason why many people come here, to broaden their friendship groups and feel a bit more like a part of society. That brings us to number 2 on the list. But before we get to that,
the Medellin Masterclass is here.
We'll teach you how to create an amazing life here, much like we've already created for ourselves.
So if you're ready to start living the dream, click the link in the description, fill out the form, and we'll send you more information.
In the meantime, enjoy the rest of this video. So what is number 2 on the list? I'm sure you're all wondering. And we're going to surprise you, because I bet you a lot of you guys thought this was number 1. And that is
the cost of living. Medellin's cost of living is very low compared to a lot of the major cities in any country in the world. Here, if you have $2,000, $3,000 a month, you could live very, very comfortably. Not only can you afford a nice place to live in, but you also have everything else that comes with it, like the nightlife, the entertainment, the dating, meeting new people, the traveling and hiking. You've got all of that you can afford. Whereas $2,000, $3,000 in some of the major cities around the world, you would be living in a shoebox.
So guys, let's just say a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, okay? In Los Angeles, that's going to cost you on average $3,400 a month. In New York, that's going to cost you $5,000 a month.
Holy.
That same type of apartment in the most expensive part of Medellin, El Poblado, the Beverly Hills of Medellin, is going to cost you how much, Andrew?
On the low end, $1,000. On the mid end, $2,000. On the high end, $3,000 and up. On average, you're going to probably spend around $2,000 to be safe on a nice place in a nice neighborhood anywhere in Medellin, but particularly in El Poblado, the Beverly Hills of Medellin, you can afford that on $2,000 a month.
So $2,000 a month, living in the Beverly Hills of Medellin and having an awesome place. And the figures we gave you before about LA and New York were just average rentals. That's not even to get an awesome place. Without a pool, without a gym, a lot of these places in Medellin come with all those things. Basketball court, squash court, everything. It's luxury living for half the price that you would pay for mediocre living, right?
Yeah, and furthermore, apart from rental prices being a lot cheaper than they are back home, everything else is cheaper too. Food is cheaper here. Gyms are cheaper here. Uber is way more cheaper than it would be back home.
So let's give you some reference points actually about cost of living. First, let's talk about eating out at a restaurant. A nice sit-down restaurant here in Poblado. A meal with a drink, a main and a dessert. I've been here to Kaimi. It's a really nice place with my girlfriend a couple times.
Okay.
And I think we're paying about $50 for both. Yeah.
Okay,
and that's a drink, a meal, and an ice cream, which we take home and eat there. So that's $50 for 2 people. If you did that in Australia, you're paying about $100. In the US, it's probably about the same, right?
Yeah, especially like LA. Yeah, those places can get even more expensive.
So that's a nice sit-down restaurant that you might go for a date on a Friday night or Saturday night or something special occasion, you know? Yeah. What about day-to-day living? Tell us about the menu del dia.
Yeah, menu del dia, depending on what neighborhood you're in, could cost you anywhere from 8,000 pesos to 20,000 pesos, $2 to $5. It comes with a starter, which is the soup, and a drink. You get your main course, which is Usually rice, a piece of meat, plantain, and maybe a side salad. Tastes great, and it's healthy, and you could see why people here are not obese and stuff, and why people come here, because it is cheap and it's good.
The quality versus price is incredible.
Incredible, yeah.
Let's talk about Ubers also, because one big reason that people really love coming here for cost of living is that they can do a lot of things. I just came from Laureles to Andrew's place, which is about a 20-minute, 25-minute ride, and that cost me $3.
Yeah, it is very cheap. I don't think I've ever spent more than $6 going anywhere in the city via Uber, even during peak hours when it surges.
And also, many people love improving themselves in the city, like we spoke about before. And a huge reason is accessibility to those activities. So for example, some things that I do are singing lessons. They cost $9 each. Tennis lessons, $6 each.
Yeah.
So things are just so cheap. You just find yourself being like, hey, I'm going to give it a go. Whereas in our countries, you might be like, oh my God, I'm not paying $100 an hour for that. I'll just never do it.
Another thing that a lot of people come here for, because it's so affordable, is the healthcare.
That's a huge one. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's actually get into that now. You're from a country where healthcare is killer.
It's very expensive in the United States. You could pay thousands of dollars per year to get private health insurance. The lowest health insurance could be expensive for some people.
Yeah. In terms of healthcare, let's talk about dental work first. In the States, the average cost of a cleaning could be anywhere between $150 to $300. Here, it can cost you $30 for the same service, if not better. Invisalign can cost between $6,000 and $8,000 in the US, whereas in Colombia, it can cost you $3,000, half the price. Many people will actually fly into Colombia just to get their work done and then fly back. Private healthcare, is that very common in the US? I guess you have to have it because there's no public healthcare like there is in Australia.
Yeah, but you have different levels of private, you know, your HMO, kind of similar to what you have here in Colombia.
Well, did you know that general healthcare that many expats get here, which basically is above average level, which gives you everything you need, costs $25 a month.
That is a steal.
And you have the bells and whistles one. What does that cost?
Yeah, I've got the bells and whistles one. I pay a yearly fee. I pay about $1,300 per year. Covers everything. I have an app where I can literally make an appointment for tomorrow morning if I wanted to.
So that's about $100 a month. You guys at home know what the average healthcare in the US costs, private healthcare
How
per
much
month?
is I don't know because I was poor in the US.
Well, the average monthly cost of private healthcare in the US for a healthy 30-year-old is $436 a month. What I spoke about before, the same thing here, is $25 a month. A visit to the GP or a visit to the physiotherapist in the US, $100 to $150. In Colombia, $20. So you can see how immediately a lot of these costs start stacking up. And now we are here. The number one reason why people are leaving their countries, wherever that may be, and coming to live in Medellin, because they want to escape the rat race and they want to live a better quality of life. So let me illustrate that with a point, okay? The average monthly salary in the US, an average mind you, is $4,632 per month after tax. What type of life can you live with that in the US? You're not balling hard, you're living pretty good.
Yeah, and not only that, not only can you not afford a lot of stuff or extracurricular stuff, but on top of that, just because the US is the US or Australia is Australia and the UK is the UK, you're not going to be able to even stretch it if you wanted to do some of the things that you might want to do.
And also that $4,632 per month, you need to work 40 hours to get it.
Oh, God.
So even if you have some savings and you want to do extracurricular activities, a lot of people don't want to do shit after doing a 9 to 5 all day. And then they come home and, oh my God, I'm too tired. So you need to work a lot to get a above average standard of living. Whereas in Colombia, because things are so cheap, you can work half that and you make $2,500 per month. And as we said before, you can live pretty bloody good with that money here.
You could probably even save money at that point. And if you want to push yourself and make more money, you may even be able to buy a property here, which is an American dream. Imagine, the American dream is harder to achieve in the United States now more than ever because of inflation, because of job losses, because of the pandemic. There's many excuses.
Absolutely. So you can come here immediately, and if you are tired and stressed from your lives, wherever you may be, you can immediately work less, you can do more, and you can be happier. Maybe you're close to retirement and you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to wait 10 years. You can come here and you can retire earlier.
I hate the word retirement. The traditional form of looking at retirement is that you work your whole life and then at 63 or 65 years old, you stop and then wait to die. That is no life for me. That's not my life. I live and I do what I want every single day. I've transformed my life into living in the United States, being deported from the United States and coming here without a dime, without a family member, without a friend, with no education because I didn't graduate, to being an entrepreneur, owning multiple businesses and multiple properties here, and doing whatever the hell I want to do in life. Life here is just very different than what you are living in your country, probably.
What I used to love when I was at university was exams are coming up and I'm just going to go so hard on studying, and then I have a few months to relax, sleep into whenever I want, and play video games and have that freedom. And when I started working full time, I was like, man, thinking back to when I was 18, 19, I'm like, damn, those were some good times. I'll never have them back again. Maybe 1 or 2 weeks, a year when I'm on holiday, but I'll never have that again. And now I'm doing exactly that.
I can't imagine going my whole life thinking, oh, I wish I was back in the good old days.
Yeah.
This is the good old days.
And now I'm like, oh my God, I can literally do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's being rich these days. I'd say it's not about money. It's not about possessions. It's about time. And I think that's the one big reason why people are escaping the rat race and moving to Colombia, is to get that valuable time back.
I can't agree more. And do you want to know where my favorite place is and the easiest place for me to meet women is as a 42-year-old male?
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but okay.
I'll tell you in the next video. So you make sure to like and subscribe for that next video.
And because we love our time so much, this video is over.